Welcome to the deep dive. We sift through stacks of research so you get the core insights. Have you ever really stopped to think about those small everyday money choices? Like that morning coffee, clicking buy online, maybe subscribing to something new. They seem tiny, right? But they're actually the building blocks of our financial lives. They tell a much bigger story than just the numbers. So today, we're diving deep into the economics of everyday spending, what we spend and why. We want to go way beyond just how much we spend and really get into the why, the choices we make, especially when resources feel tight.
Yeah, and it's not just about spreadsheets or logic. It's this really fascinating mix of, well, psychology, social pressures, and all the new tech that's constantly shaping how we behave with money,
Yeah.
often without us even noticing it's happening.
Exactly. So our mission here is to unpack all those layers behind your spending habits. We want to give you some surprising facts, some insights that hopefully give you a clearer view and maybe a bit more control over your cash. Get ready for some aha moments, maybe a shortcut to getting informed without feeling totally overwhelmed. All right, let's get into it. Everyday spending. But maybe before we look outwards, let's start inside our own heads. Because it feels like the first hurdle with budgeting is often emotional or those mental shortcuts we take.
That's a great place to start, because the core idea here is that emotions drive spending. We often use money not just rationally, but to manage our mood, right? To comfort ourselves or maybe mark big moments.
Okay, yeah, like comfort food when you're down.
Exactly. Or ordering takeout when you're stressed, even though you've got food at home. Or maybe just clicking buy on something random when you're bored. We all do it. And what's often going on is this habit loop. Your brain gets a little hit of dopamine, a reward from the spending.
Yeah.
And that just reinforces the urge to do it again, which unfortunately can lead straight to overspending and then that feeling of financial guilt.
That dopamine hit, it really does feel like our brains are sometimes working against our bank accounts. And these emotional traps, are they amplified by things like cognitive biases? I hear present bias is mentioned a lot. Can you break that down?
Absolutely. So beyond just raw emotion, our brains use these cognitive biases. They're like subconscious mental shortcuts. And present bias is a really big one. It's basically our tendency to want good things now rather than wait for potentially better things later. Immediate gratification wins out.
Even if the future reward is bigger.
Even then, yeah, think about spending, say, $100 on a nice dinner out tonight instead of putting that towards next month's rent or a credit card payment. It happens because, well, future you feels kind of abstract, less real, less urgent than present you wanting that enjoyment right now. It's a constant internal battle.
Okay, so present bias pulls us towards the now, but then there's loss aversion, which sounds like it does the opposite, maybe make us too cautious.
It's incredibly powerful, yes. Loss aversion means we feel the pain of losing something like money about twice as strongly as the pleasure of gaining the same amount.
Wow, twice as strong.
Roughly, yeah, according to studies. So finding $50 feels good. Losing $50 feels really bad. And this shows up in finance all the time. People holding on to a stock that's tanked because selling it means admitting the loss.
Or refusing to sell something for less than they paid, even if it makes no sense.
Exactly. Or even just hoarding cash or gift cards.
Yeah.
Because spending them feels like you're losing that value. It can paralyze you or make you overly cautious, like avoiding potentially good investments because the fear of loss is just too strong.
And it seems related to how we categorize money too, right? Like you said, the gift card feels different from salary.
That brings us perfectly to mental accounting. It's fascinating. We put money into these mental buckets, don't we? Like this is bill money, this is vacation fund, this is fun money from my tax refund.
Oh, totally.
Even though, logically, a dollar's a dollar, it's fungible. But our brain doesn't treat it that way. So you might happily spend that tax refund on something frivolous while stressing about an upcoming electricity bill.
Or refuse to dip into emergency savings to pay off high-interest credit card debt, even though it would save you money.
Precisely. It leads to these irrational decisions that can really sabotage your overall financial health because the buckets feel separate.
Okay, so we categorize money mentally.
Yeah.
What about the actual act of paying? Does that hurt? Psychologically, I mean.
It absolutely does. It's called the pain of paying. And how much pain you feel depends massively on how you pay. Think of it like a spectrum. Paying with cash, that's high pain. You physically see the money leave your hand. You feel it.
Yeah, handing over bills definitely feels more real.
Then debit cards are sort of medium pain. It's electronic. But the money leaves your account pretty much immediately.
Oh.
Credit cards, lower pain. The payment is delayed, feels less immediate.
And then the really easy stuff.
Right. Digital wallets, one-click buying like on Amazon, Subscriptions that auto-renew,
Yeah.
that's almost zero pain. It's designed to be frictionless.
So spending $100 cash feels way worse than clicking a button for $100 online.
Much worse, psychologically. Companies know this. They have literally engineered the friction, the pain, out of paying because it makes us spend more, often without thinking. It's clever, but also a bit scary.
So the big takeaway here is that spending isn't just logic, it's feelings, it's these mental shortcuts, it's even how the payment itself is designed.
Exactly. And just recognizing these patterns in yourself, that's the first step. It gives you back some power.
Okay, so if the first battle is internal, the next one seems to be, well, external, our social world. And this is where it gets really interesting, right? Because how we spend isn't just in our heads, it's tied up with who we are, who we hang out with, the whole society we live in.
Absolutely. Let's start with something we all feel: social proof and peer pressure. We're wired to look at others, especially people in our social circles, to figure out what's normal, what's desirable. We often imitate the people we admire.
Like joining a gym because your colleagues do, or getting the latest phone.
Precisely. Or feeling like you have to go on that expensive vacation because it seems like everyone else on your feed is doing it.
Social media, that must amplify this like crazy.
Massively. Because you're usually only seeing the curated highlights, right? The amazing trips, the new car, the fancy clothes. You rarely see the credit card bills or the debt behind it.
Yeah, good point.
And this constant comparison can easily lead to lifestyle inflation, where your spending creeps up just to keep up appearances, even if your income isn't really supporting it.
And it's not just our friends, is it? Broader cultural norms must play a part too. How does that work?
Hugely. Culture, whether it's your country, your community, your family, even religious norms, shapes our fundamental views on money. What's okay to spend on? What should you save for? What's considered a worthy splurge?
Can you get some examples?
Sure. Think about maybe cultural values around frugality, like in parts of Japan. Or maybe a focus on appearance and presentation, sometimes seen in places like Brazil. In the US, there's often a strong consumer culture, the whole treat yourself idea. Or think about cultures where huge weddings are the norm, like in India, sometimes leading people into debt because it's such a strong social expectation.
Right. So conforming can be expensive.
It really can. The pressure, explicit or implicit, can push people into debt or make them feel guilty if they don't spend in expected ways.
Okay, and then there's the idea of status signaling, buying things to show off, basically.
Essentially, yeah. It's what economists call conspicuous consumption. You buy things not just for their function, but to signal something about yourself to others.
Like what? Success, taste.
Exactly. Success, taste, wealth, belonging to a certain group, driving a luxury car, even with crippling payments, to look successful, wearing certain brands, choosing a certain kind of apartment or neighborhood.
And social media again, Instagram, TikTok, perfect platforms for that.
Oh, absolutely. They become huge arenas for creating these like digital status hierarchies. People carefully craft an image. The dangerous part is it can trap people in a cycle of spending beyond their means, leading to debt and anxiety, all just to maintain an image.
So digging deeper, all this social stuff, proof, norms, status, it seems to boil down to our basic human need to belong, right? Which isn't bad in itself.
Not at all. That need for connection is fundamental.
But if we don't examine these influences, they can kind of hijack our spending, make us buy things to impress others, borrow to keep up, maybe even feel embarrassed about making smart but less clashy choices.
That's a risk, yeah. It's easy to get swept up.
So how do we fight back a little? Any starting points?
A simple but powerful thing is to just pause before a significant purchase. Ask yourself honestly, am I buying this for me or mainly for how it will look to others? Maybe do an audit of your influences, especially online. Who makes you feel like you need more stuff? And consciously try to redefine what success and happiness mean to you, separate from those external signals.
Okay, good advice. Pause and reflect.
Now let's shift gears again. Beyond our own minds and social circles, there are powerful external forces constantly shaping our spending. Let's talk about modern marketing and technology.
Right. It definitely feels like companies have gotten incredibly good at, well, getting us to open our wallets. Let's start with targeted advertising. It feels like my phone is listening sometimes. How does it actually work?
It's less about listening and more about data. Digital platforms collect an enormous amount of information about you, your clicks, websites you visit, your location, search history, sometimes even indicators of your mood or the time of day you're most active online. Yeah, and they use all this to build a profile and show you ads that are incredibly personalized. Ads that are basically engineered for emotional targeting.
So they hit you when you're vulnerable.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
They push your dreams, your fears, your desires. You search for hiking boots, suddenly you see ads for tents, backpacks, trips,
Or you talk about needing a new pan near your phone.
and an ad pops up later. It feels spooky, but it's usually just sophisticated algorithms connecting data points you've already generated online.
Okay, still a bit spooky. Now,
Uh,
what about the shift away from buying things once to everything being a subscription?
Subscription models. That's been a massive change, hasn't it? Moving from one-time purchases to these recurring monthly or yearly payments that often auto-renew.
Streaming services, music, meal kits.
Shaving clubs, software, cloud storage, fitness apps.
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
So how does that impact us behaviorally?
Well, a few things happen. First, you often forget you're even paying for them after a while. They become invisible. Second, you tend to overestimate how much you'll actually use the service. And third, canceling often feels like a hassle that inertia keeps you subscribed.
Subscription fatigue, right?
Exactly. And those small, seemingly insignificant monthly charges add up. They become these silent drains on your budget, potentially costing you hundreds, even thousands a year on autopilot.
And alongside subscriptions, just paying for anything has gotten so much easier, almost too easy. Let's talk frictionless payment.
Oh, definitely. Technology has relentlessly removed the friction, the pause, the hesitation, the psychological pain from spending money.
Like what kind of tools?
One-click shopping, like on Amazon, is a classic. Digital wallets, Apple Pay, Google Pay, buy now, pay later services like Klarna or Afterpay are huge now. And those auto renewals we just talked about.
It's true. Ordering something at night with one click, you barely feel it.
Right. You see a $15 gadget, click once, done. You might not even register the cost until the credit card statement arrives and you wonder where all the money went.
And those buy now, pay later things seem particularly tricky.
They really are. They play on our psychology by breaking a larger cost into smaller, seemingly manageable chunks. It tricks your brain into thinking you're spending less overall. But it's easy to lose track, stack up multiple plans, and suddenly find yourself with significant debt that you didn't fully anticipate.
So underlying all this, the ads, the subscriptions, the easy payments, there's a kind of psychological game being played.
Absolutely. These strategies are deliberately designed to exploit our known human vulnerabilities. Things like our bias towards immediate rewards, our natural forgetfulness, our tendency towards impulsive actions, especially when we're tired or distracted. It's all about reducing thought and encouraging the transaction.
Okay, so it feels a bit like we're up against it. What are some concrete defense strategies? How can we push back?
There are definitely things you can do. Ad blockers can help reduce the sheer volume of targeted ads you see. Make it a habit to audit your subscriptions regularly, maybe every few months. Go through your bank statements and cancel what you don't truly use or value.
Good one. What else?
Try reintroducing friction for non-essential spending. Use cash sometimes, or at least a debit card instead of credit. It makes the spending feel more real. The wait 24 hours rule is great for impulse buys. Put it in your cart or on a list, wait a day. If you still genuinely want it and it fits your budget, fine. Often, the urge passes.
And disable one click.
Definitely. Disable one-click ordering and maybe even saved credit card info on sites where you tend to impulse buy. Make yourself take that extra step. It gives your rational brain a chance to chime in.
Okay, so we've seen the internal factors, the social pressures, the tech influences. What's the bigger picture? What does all this individual spending mean for us personally and even for the wider economy?
Well, let's start with the personal consequences. Individually, all those small, maybe emotional or impulsive decisions we've talked about, they add up. What feels like a small leak can eventually sink the ship, right? Daily coffees, frequent delivery, impulse buys, forgotten subscriptions they accumulate into real debt, a lack of savings, and often significant financial stress.
So what looks like just a spending problem might actually be deeper.
Often, yeah. It's frequently rooted in these behavioral patterns, driven by unconscious habits, social pressures, maybe even emotional needs that aren't being met in other ways. Understanding that is key to changing it.
And collectively, when millions of us are making these kinds of choices, what's the impact on the economy?
It's huge. Consumer spending is the engine of many economies, like around 70% of GDP in the US. So widespread behaviors shape the whole system. If lots of people overspend, especially using debt, it can create bubbles or inflationary pressure.
And lead to problems down the line.
Definitely. It can create debt dependency. High levels of household debt make the economy fragile. If people struggle to pay, banks suffer. If consumers suddenly slam the brakes on spending to pay down debt, it can slow the economy dramatically. potentially triggering a recession.
And governments have to react.
Right. You see policy responses, central banks adjusting interest rates to encourage or discourage borrowing, or governments implementing regulations on lending or advertising, trying to manage these large-scale effects.
This brings us to a really important, sometimes difficult topic: wealth inequality. How does everyday spending intersect with that?
It's a critical connection that often gets missed. The reality is, not everyone starts on a level playing field financially, and people with fewer resources often face higher costs and more financial traps. It's sometimes called the poverty premium.
What does that mean, the poverty premium?
It means things can actually cost more if you have less money. Think higher interest rates on payday loans because mainstream credit isn't available, more late fees if income is volatile, and inability to buy in bulk to save money. There's often a lack of access to credit for things like mortgages or small business loans, which limits opportunities for building wealth, contributing to economic immobility.
So necessities just eat up a bigger slice of the pie.
Exactly, leaving very little or nothing for saving or investing. Contrast that with wealthier individuals who often have access to better financial products, lower interest rates, and can more easily avoid those pain points and fees.
So spending habits aren't just individual choices, they're tangled up with systemic issues.
Deeply. They're intertwined with structural inequality and the way our economic systems are designed. It's much more complex than just telling someone to spend less.
Right. So the final takeaway from this section seems to be, wow, everyday spending is this incredibly complex web. It's our psychology, our social world, technology, marketing, and these big systemic inequalities all woven together affecting us and the economy.
Exactly. It's a lot. But now that we've kind of pulled back that curtain on the why, let's focus on empowerment. Let's talk about some powerful concepts and practical tools that can help you reclaim control.
Okay, great. Let's arm the listeners. What are some key concepts to know that can really shift how we think about spending? First up, opportunity cost. Sounds a bit technical, but how does it help in practice?
It's actually super practical. Opportunity cost is simply the value of the next best thing you give up when you make a choice. So buying that $70 dress doesn't just cost $70. The opportunity cost might be not reducing your credit card debt by $70, or not adding $70 to your emergency fund, or not investing it.
So it forces you to compare.
Exactly. It reframes the decision. Instead of just, can I afford this? It becomes, is this the best way I could use this money right now, considering what I'm giving up? It shifts spending from automatic to intentional.
Makes sense. And we've touched on biases throughout, but the whole field of behavioral economics, why, is understanding that field itself useful.
Because it acknowledges reality. Traditional economics often assumes we're perfectly rational calculators. Behavioral economics studies how we actually behave, often irrationally, influenced by emotions and biases.
Like the ones we discussed, anchoring, sunk cost fallacy.
Right. Anchoring is being swayed by the first number you see, like a fake original price before discount. Sunk cost fallacy is sticking with something bad just because you've already invested time or money. Understanding this field matters because, one, it helps you forgive yourself for past mistakes.
Yeah.
You're human. And two, it gives you strategies to counteract those biases going forward. You know what traps to look out for.
Okay, good. And one more concept, a trap many fall into: lifestyle inflation. Why is this so dangerous for building wealth?
Oh, it's incredibly sneaky. Lifestyle inflation is when your spending increases right along with your income. You get a raise, you spend more. Bigger apartment, newer car, fancier restaurants, more subscriptions.
So you're earning more, but not actually getting richer.
Precisely. You might feel like you're doing well, but you're still living paycheck to paycheck, just at a higher level. The gap between what you earn and what you spend isn't growing. And remember this, the gap between income and lifestyle is where wealth is built. If that gap stays narrow or non-existent, your wealth simply won't grow, no matter how much you earn.
Okay, those concepts are powerful frameworks. Now, how about some really practical tools linked to the problems we've discussed?
Let's connect them directly. To fight emotional spending, try keeping an emotional spending journal to spot triggers, or use that wait 24 hours rule to beat present bias. Automatic savings is key setup transfers for right after payday. The pay yourself first rule.
Makes sense, take it off the table before you can spend it.
Exactly. To counter mental accounting, try using budgeting apps that give you a unified account view, seeing all your money together. Or try zero-based budgeting, where every dollar has a job. To reintroduce the pain of paying, use cash for discretionary categories like eating out or entertainment. And definitely disable those one-click purchases.
What about the social pressures?
Yes. For social proof and status stuff, focus on values-based budgeting, aligning spending with what truly matters to you. Maybe a digital detox or unfollowing social media accounts that trigger comparison or envy. For subscriptions and frictionless spending, use subscription trackers or apps that monitor recurring payments. Try a spending detox challenge for a month, cut back drastically to reset habits.
And lifestyle inflation.
When you get a raise, try a lifestyle lock. Commit to saving or investing a certain percentage of that raise before upgrading your lifestyle. Or use an upgrade with Pupus rule. Only upgrade the car or apartment after hitting a specific savings or investment goal.
Wow. Okay, that's a really practical toolkit. Now, one last area to really focus on, how brands specifically manipulate these social influences. Let's pull back that curtain even further.
Right, because brands are experts at tapping into these needs. For social proof, they use tactics like customer reviews, testimonials, highlighting bestsellers, partnering with influencers. Think about brands like Glossier or Gymshark. They build empires by making their customers feel like part of an in-the-know community, validating the brand for others.
And status signaling.
That's about premium pricing, creating exclusivity with limited drops or collaborations, luxury branding, careful product placement in media. Apple's a masterclass. They sell sleek design and an association with creativity and being tech-forward, a status symbol. In this tribal marketing, building a community around shared values or identity.
Like Nike.
Exactly. Nike isn't just shoes, it's the just-do-it mindset, athleticism, determination. Patagonia sells environmental activism. Lululemon sells a whole wellness lifestyle. You're not just buying leggings, you're joining the tribe.
And urgency. FOMO.
Fear of missing out, yeah. Brands use flash sales, countdown timers on websites, low stock warnings, waitlist for products. Fast fashion like Zara or streetwear like Supreme thrive on this scarcity model, creating hype and impulse buys.
And finally, designing things just for social media.
Absolutely. Social media engineering.
Yeah.
Products intentionally designed to be photogenic, look good on Instagram, branded hashtags to encourage user posts, running contests for user-generated content. Think about how Starbucks drinks, with the logo perfectly placed, became almost a fashion accessory in photos.
So the psychology behind it all is brands aren't just selling us stuff.
No, they're selling belonging, identity, status, urgency, validation, visibility. They're tapping directly into those deep human needs for acceptance and feeling good about ourselves.
So how do we defend against that level of sophisticated manipulation?
Awareness is the first step, as always, but practically. Consciously ask, who am I really buying this for? Me or an imagined audience? Limit your exposure to hyper-aspirational content that makes you feel inadequate. Recognize the tactics, see the countdown timer for what it is, manufactured urgency, see the influencer post as paid advertising, develop intentional marketing filters, and crucially, delay purchases that feel emotionally charged, whether by excitement, FOMO, or status anxiety. Give yourself time to think clearly.
What a deep dive this has been. It's clear that everyday spending is, well, way more complex than it looks on the surface. It's tangled up with our own minds, our social circles, our culture, and all this incredibly sophisticated marketing and tech.
But the really empowering message here is that understanding these layers changes everything. Once you see the forces at play, you're no longer just a passive participant drifting along. You become an active, aware decision maker. You can take control.
So as you go about your week making those everyday spending choices, maybe pause and consider this. Is your money truly reflecting your values, your goals, your priorities? Or is it echoing the whispers of hidden biases, social pressures, and those clever algorithms? How will you choose to reclaim your financial narrative this week?